We live in a society that values productivity so much more than creativity, unless, of course, your creativity is your job. So if you have a hobby of some kind, chances are you have put it on the back burner because you have your giant to-do list that you have to get completed by the end of the day or end of the week, and your hobby or your passion, your creative passion, something that sparks within you, is put to the side for another day. And that day seems to just, you push it further and further and further out until it's something that you once loved but no longer do. And today I wanted to talk about different ways you can get that creative flow back or the creative motivation back if you've lost it because you've put it on the side for so long. I love to create every day, but I don't always create every day because, of course, life gets in the way and responsibilities get in the way. But I do, and also sometimes I just don't feel like it because, maybe I'm tired. So there are ways to keep that creative flow going even if you are not creating every day. I think personally one of the best ways to remain in a creative flow state or to find the creative motivation is to actually create. But that is not always possible. And so that's what this video is about. This video is about tapping into creative joy and making sure that the motivation to create is still there even when you're just not in the mood to draw, paint, or whatever your creative hobby is. One of my favorite things to do when I don't feel like creating, but I want to become inspired or just somewhat motivated to create, I will look at books. Now, I'm not necessarily one to buy new books. I love going to the thrift store and finding secondhand books. Sometimes I'll get art books as long as I like what's in them. I always find it surprising that art books exist, but without art. You'll look at an art book and it'll look really good and it'll be nothing but text and no art. I will usually try to find styles that I like at a price that I like and look at the artwork. Most of the time for me, it's just looking at the style of the paintings and the artwork just to become inspired. And also I like exploring different color combinations and how other artists did mark making, color choices, all of it. And so I will often go and browse the secondhand bookstore or thrift store for different books on different artists and just see what other people did in the past. And also it helps you realize that artists weren't always about realism, which is one of the things I discussed yesterday in my video about cats. The other thing is I will often get books that are not related to art. And it's really funny that I got this gorgeous book on celebrating 50 years of New York City Ballet. And in this book is, in addition to stunning photography, is art. A lot of times you can go online to be inspired, but I sometimes find, you'll scroll, and you lose track of time so much easier than if you're sipping on a coffee and browsing through an old book. I find there's nothing more relaxing than going through books. I love being surrounded by books. If I'm ever at a loss for motivation to create, or I feel like I'm a terrible artist or I can't draw, I will get all my art journals out and I will go through them. I actually have a little book that I call Krista Irene Art Playbook, and that's where I jot down all of my ideas for my art. So on one hand, you're not drawing or creating because you don't have time, but you can bring a teeny tiny little book with you and jot down any ideas for creating. And that's what I use this book for. The next thing is I just have a whole bunch of art journals. If you follow my channel, I have a tiny sketchbook series, which makes it easier to, in my opinion, become motivated to create because you're doing it on a really small level in like a really short period of time. And If you're interested, I will leave a link in the description on that sketchbook challenge I had, but it was like a tiny sketchbook challenge. It takes the pressure off and you create quickly. But when I'm not creating and I've lost motivation, I will go through my art journals and just sort of look back and be like, oh yeah, and become sort of motivated to create again. One of my ones that I just looked at today was this sort of series I did with a colored pencil. Hold on, let's see if I can find it. I probably put it away. Where did it go? Here it is. So I was playing with this colored pencil that has all the different colors in the pencil itself and just quickly drawing. But sometimes you forget what you've done in the past and you think that you've lost motivation. But looking at the artwork that you've created before can sometimes inspire you to create again. So even if you don't create every day, even if weeks or months have gone by, if you look at books, if you pull out your old art journals, you think to yourself, oh yeah, oh, I loved doing this. And that might motivate you to get back into it. And to be honest with you, I completely forgot about these drawings that I did. And I forgot how much I love this pencil, and it hasn't even been that long. Let's see. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that pencil. Personally, I also find, now I'm not one to, I don't really like social media that much. You'll find me on YouTube much more than any other place, other than Patreon, which I'll also leave a link in my Patreon. But sometimes you can go through your photos that you've put online of your artwork and sort of just remember what you've done in the past. Because sometimes we forget when we take too much time off. So go through your old art journals, go through photos of artwork that you've done, and it's a great way to motivate yourself. And even if it's artwork you've done years ago, it's still within you to create. So I encourage you to get through it, look through your old artwork, and just be inspired by yourself. One of the other things that helps me from a creative perspective is my art studio is very, very small. And what I've learned is I like to keep all my essential art supplies close at hand in an somewhat organized way so that I can quickly grab whatever I want to create. A lot of times I used to keep my art supplies put away in a dresser because I am a bit of a neat freak. And I realized that by doing that, if I don't have all my supplies out or my books, which I like to keep down here, then I'm just not going to create. But if I have all my art supplies, that's a little IKEA table there, and that's a little IKEA shelf. And I just like the way that I have everything set up so I could quickly grab it. And let's see if I got this camera working okay. And then go right to the table and create. So even though I have this tiny little space to create, and I used to just create in my kitchen, if you keep your art supplies out, you're more likely to grab onto them and start creating. So this is just my little setup for helping me get motivated. And when I'm not motivated, I will grab a book from here and get in my chair that my cat loves to steal, and I will sip on a coffee and go through a book. And that's just another tip for anyone who doesn't feel motivated. I know that as soon as I clean my office up and put my art supplies out in a neat way, then I'm just more likely to use them than if I have it all put away. I forget all the supplies I have, and I just lack motivation. Also, having all your art supplies out means that you're less likely to go purchase new art supplies. And that's why I like having all of these out here. A couple of more tips to help you stay motivated when you've lost your sort of creative flow is to go on out there, and there's 4 places I like to go. I like to go to the art gallery. There is nothing better, in my opinion, than going to an art gallery. You can even go to university or college art galleries, especially this time of year when students Students in the art programs are graduating, a lot of times they will have their art on display. There will be some kind of event where you can go and see their art. And I love doing that, and I hope to get to do that in the next couple of weeks, because when you see the creativity of these students in their final projects, it's really wonderful. So I enjoy doing that. So art galleries of any kind, it doesn't have to be professional artists. It can be any type of art gallery. I also love going to museums. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm not sure why, but I'm super inspired by old things. And what was the final one is walks, getting outside, going for walks and being inspired by nature. If you live somewhere where you're having some great weather, it's nice to get outside. For me personally, there's a lot of rain happening right now, but otherwise, I feel like wherever you live, if you live near the ocean, go to the ocean. If you live by the mountains, go to the mountains. If you're close to the woods, you can go for a nice walk on a pathway in the woods. Whatever works for you to become inspired. We all have, I guess, responsibilities in life. So most of the time, it's the responsibilities that are paying the bills that have our attention, or the responsibilities of being a parent, because those are the two things that are going to take priority, is your family and obviously paying the bills. But if you can carve out some time to stay motivated, whether it's a walk during your lunch break, or jotting down ideas, or visiting the library with your kids and getting some books that might inspire you, then that can help you keep that creative flow going when you don't have time to create. If you have any suggestions on how to stay motivated to create when you basically don't have time to create, I'd love to hear your comments. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and of course, happy creating.